everybody. Welcome to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I am Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And we have a competition review for you guys today. We are doing the DPG Masters 2025 winners. So DPG Masters in one form or another has been around for about 20 years now. It used to be, I think it was Wet Pixel, maybe Wet Pixel Masters, then the Deep Indonesia.
I think it was just the Wet Pixel competition. Originally it was the Our World Underwater show competition.
Yeah.
And then became the Wet Pixel one, and then Wet Pixel collaborated with DPG, and then Adam went to the dark side, and then DPG had it all to themselves. It's kind of its.
Yeah. So now it is just the DPG Masters competition. And if you look back at the history of this, there are some truly spectacular pictures that have been awarded in this competition over its history. And there's some really nice ones this year as well. It's worth noting that according to the press release, there were over 2,000 images submitted this year. I don't know how that compares to years past, but that's a significant amount of pictures entered.
That's a strong entry, for an underwater competition.
Especially considering there's only, I think, 9 categories. So there's not a whole huge amount of overall of winning entries. 9 times 5 is what, I can't do that much math. 56 out of 2,000 something entries is pretty good.
And it says that the judges, who were Nicholas Remy, Jennifer Hayes, Alvaro Herrero, Jill Heinrath, Aaron Wong, Kate Jonker, saw hundreds of them, and the DPG staff sorted the 2,000 down to hundreds.
Yeah, and just to be clear,
I was going to ask you, because you are one of the DPG staff. How many others are there?
I don't know actually, but I think there's only 2 or 3 of us. But I keep getting asked how the whole competition process works.
So how did you select?
Full disclosure, I have no idea how it works. So I'm not sure about all the back end stuff there, but I do like how, and shout out to our buddy Gabe, who has been making all sorts of underwater competition memes. I know last year he made one because each of the judges for this competition represents one of the different housing manufacturers. And Gabe turned them all into the different Power Rangers last year, which I thought was quite funny. But I don't know how all of that stuff works. I do know the judges do have the final say overall. And I know Nico has worked quite hard to make sure that the winning images are a good representation of the underwater world.
And one thing that I think they deserve praise for is that last year and this year they've also provided a feedback results, to show you a little bit about how you got on in the competition. I've not entered the competition, so I don't know exactly what they give you, but I think, even if it's only relatively basic information, I think that's highly valued by photographers, and I think really goes a long way to justifying the entry fees that these competitions have. And I think that more competitions should follow that route. I think it'd be great if all the underwater competitions, felt that they owed that to the entrants.
Yeah, and I think that has been feedback that I've received that I think people really enjoy, and it's similar to UPYs, where it's a simple grid, and there's not as many rounds as in UPY. I think there's 4.
We've
for
got less
DPG.
Images. We'd quite happy to have 4 if we had only 2,000 entries. That'd be over the moon.
So you get it progressed like first round, second round, third round, winner, something like that. But it does seem to be valuable to people, and it would be nice if more competitions adopted that, because I think it's people like to see it just for the sake of seeing it, and also I do think it provides useful feedback on the competition overall. With that, let us get into the actual images.
Right. Oh, I'm struggling with the computer. Should be coming up on the screen.
Yep.
So that should now be our overall winner.
Yes. And it also was the wide angle winner.
And a very beautiful image of humpbacks. I think that there is some undercurrent within our community about humpback images, particularly of all the whales, and the fact that some of the interactions are not as well managed as they should be, and we've covered that on the channel, talking specifically about Tonga, but other places as well. I know humpback images from Mexico might even be more problematic. But irrespective of that, I think that when you put a load of wide angle pictures together, and some of them contain humpbacks, those humpback pictures tend to stand out a lot. And I think, and I think although this is an up close image, which is kind of what a lot of the interaction stuff is, I think it feels very natural. I know that I like the movement and synchrony. I'm kind of hoping that they're not just running away from a horde of snorkelers coming after them, which I'm sure they're not. But I think the synchronization of the two, the processing is on point. I think that's something I always notice when judging these competitions. Is a lot of people probably had very similar raw files, but when it comes to humpbacks, the end results are very different. And I think a lot of that is in the processing. And I think this one really pops. I think the beams pop, the whales pop, and it's they're spectacular subjects in humpback whales, and it's I think it's also not necessarily the right attitude to have with the humpbacks to say, well, all the people who've got nice humpback pictures, well done to them, but we're now going to start being mean about humpback pictures because maybe the tourism's getting a bit out of control. Because the individual may have done this in the most ethical way in a place where the whales were totally into the interaction, and certainly with calves they often are really into the interaction. And
actually, I had you have some backstory for this because Yuka, whose picture this is, Yuka Takahashi, did a behind the shot story for DPG on this one, and this was in Moorea, so not Tonga, and she said these two were just hanging out together, and she actually has images where she's floating in the water just on her back, and they're both coming right up to her to kind of inspect what she is, and then she was fortunate that she captured this one of the two kind of in almost perfect synchronicity. Their fins are in the same position; they're both leaning the same way, which is really nice. You can see the tail in both of them. So perfect timing on her part to catch this, and it seemed like a really interesting kind of one-on-two interaction with her and these two whales. But also, I also really like the beams in this. I think the beams kind of make it, because if you put the same picture on, a plain blue background, it'd be nice because it's humpbacks and they're in the same pose. But the beams really add that secondary element to the frame that makes it much more interesting, I think.
Yeah, give a great feeling of depth, don't they, to the picture and the shadows underneath the whales. Okay, let's roll us into our next one, which is by Chris Gudge. And which category is this one in?
This was first place traditional. So they used to be split, and it was traditional wide and traditional macro, and now it's just traditional blank.
So any wide or macro?
Yep.
So I think this is a very beautiful picture, and I think it's very nicely timed to capture the feeling of the tube anemone and then the crab so nicely posed. I imagine, Chris had to go round and round in circles on this to find exactly the angle that creates the symmetry. And I think there's, all the tentacles of the anemone look really, really beautiful around the crab. And I can see why it appeals. And it also has I think, a really different feel to it. Macro categories in general tend to be dominated by a lot of super up close, super sharp, super colourful, often snootlet shots on black backgrounds. And I think when you have a picture like this that has more the feeling of the environment, it really stands out. When it's as well executed as this, it's just a really pleasing frame. I find for me this sort of central composition of it all, it does play to the symmetry, but I think it also ages the picture quite quickly. It's not a picture I'd necessarily. I know Chris is like one of the best-selling fine art print underwater photographers. I'm not sure this is a picture I'd overly love on my wall. I think the composition is more instant impact competition sort of in style than something that I'd come back to time and again and find interesting. But I do think it's a strong image.
This was actually my favorite one from the competition. And I think, I can't remember if he posted on Instagram or if he told me in private, but how he visited this and he found this crab there once. And then he visited that anemone over and over again, hoping to re-find the crab. And it was always either tucked down in there or he couldn't find it. but I really my brain really likes symmetry, so I like the central composition this time, and I like being able to see all the tentacles around it. It really it works nicely for me, and I do agree that I think having kind of a softer aesthetic overall probably maybe helped it stand out from all of those other more classic macro competition type images. Um, and I really enjoy this one. Congrats to Chris. He's a friend, and I know he's spending all of his time over in Bali, living it up and diving now, which is we've talked about before. Being able to revisit the same subject over and over again can be really useful for creating interesting pictures.
Yeah,
so well done to him for creating a really nice picture the very first time he saw this crab.
I think also with the to do so well with a kind of non-A-list celebrity subject as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer to the whales, but I haven't seen the others yet. So, I mean, the whales was kind of fine, but this is nice. Okay, next one.
This was the macro, just straight macro winner, and this was by Sunbong Jung of a Fang Blanny spitting out, I guess, bits of coral sand.
Yeah, I've never seen one digging. So
yeah,
I was photographing one of the jawfish the other day, digging very happily, and have lots of pictures like this, but not so colourful. And jawfish dig all the time, and it's very common to find them digging. Whereas I've never seen a striped Fang Blanny digging in its hole. Maybe this guy just ate some dodgy food, but I suspect he was creating a better burrow. But it's a great moment, and I think made more interesting because I've say shot jawfish digging many times. They're kind of like a white fish on white sand, digging white sand, and it's not that interesting a picture. Whereas I think the colourful coral background of this and capturing the behaviour, and I like the smiley face that he's got with the open mouth as he spat it all out. I think that all works very nicely. So yeah, it's a nice catch, and I can see why it's a competition winner. There's a real moment to it. It's original, and I also like a picture of I do like competition winners where the subject is something that a lot of photographers go, wow, I've seen that subject, but I've never got close to that shot. I've never given it the attention to capture a behavior. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah. I didn't know they did this. I assumed they just found holes and lived in them. I didn't realize they would kind of create their own. So this is a behavior I've never seen before. And I don't think I've ever actually seen this species of Fang Blanny either.
Well, it's probably just a bit of spring cleaning or something, maybe cleaning out before egg laying or something like that. I don't think they dig burrows. I think it's just, but that makes it a harder picture to capture than a jawfish one, which they dig all the time.
For sure. Yeah. Really cool behavior, and it looks adorable and comical at the same time.
Yeah. That's my second favorite behind the crab. Right. So Anton Sorokin with a winner in what category?
This is the over/under category, so split shots.
I think a nice use of a split shot to tell this story. I think that the salamander or whatever it is underwater, or the newt is really cool. I imagine it's some sort of super rare poisonous species, knowing the photographer.
They're very toxic, but they're not especially uncommon. But I like this one. My only wish is the foreground were a bit brighter, to make it, to be easier to see it overall.
And I presume that's within the rules to allow you to adjust the exposure a bit in Lightroom.
Yeah, you can. At least for this. That's one thing to mention. I meant to mention it when we were looking at Chris's picture. The other reason that's really nice is the traditional category, you're only allowed global edits. So you can't crop, you can't do any masking, no dodging, no burning. So that's as out of camera as you can get with basic raw edits for Chris's. But the other categories do allow you to do some post-processing. And I think, it'd be quite easy to raise the exposure in the underneath portion of this, just a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the underwater portion of this. I agree it's a bit dark. I think the above water is a bit missed opportunity. I think there must have been an angle where you could see up the river or, it seems a bit, a couple of rocks, that could be anywhere. And there's no story, you could in a split level shot of a newt in a river, you should be able to tell the story of where it's living. I don't really get much story from above water, and therefore I don't see the point of the split. Technically, I really like the creature, and he's really cute. and there's nothing wrong with the shot, but I think feels to me a little bit missed opportunity in terms of the above water part of the scene.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I do think it's also interesting how cute such a toxic animal is. Like blue-ringed octopus are the same way. Super cute, and they'll kill you real fast.
Yeah. Right.
They actually have the same toxin as blue rings.
Oh, really?
They have it in their skin instead of the bite.
You really want to be careful then. Yeah. Well, I'm feeling less critical of the composition now. It's like, get one, get out of there. Right. Okay. Moving on to James Ferrara's shot of a turtle missing a flipper here, who's been caught in a net and is being freed by a blue ring octopus, which is
yes.
So I guess this is a conservation category.
Yep.
And it's some helpful people helping out a turtle who still got a few wars to win by the looking of it.
Yeah. So
is it an olive green? Is it olive Ridley turtle?
Yes. They were in Sri Lanka, and they kept coming across, discarded fishing gear that had all sorts of dead things in it, including other turtles. And they came across this one, and it was just kind of swimming in circles. And they asked the captain if they could get out and free it. And he said yes. So they went out and took the time to cut it all out and release the turtle, which is still not going to have the easiest life. As you can see, it's missing at least one flipper. But they're pretty hardy and resilient. So I don't doubt as long as she can avoid future nets, she'll probably live a while longer.
Yeah. Oh, poor turtle. Yeah. And I think it's important to take shots of things like this as well. People would say, "Oh, why are you taking a camera in when you're going to rescue a turtle?" But I actually think that if you don't document these things, no one knows what's going on, and ultimately you save more turtles by taking a camera in than none of you taking a camera in and all of you going to help. So I think it's good to talk about this. Ghost fishing is a big problem in the oceans. Plastic pollution is a problem, and old fishing gear is one of the major sources of ocean plastic. Everyone worries about obviously single-use plastics on land, which are a big problem, but fishing gear is also a massive lost fishing gear is also a massive input of plastic into the ocean, and has other big side effects as we see here. So and I very much like how the blue ring octopus lady is dressed. I think it helps them stand out from the background, and I can understand that it does feel a very unposed picture. Quite a lot of conservation pictures these days, because conservation photography is such a big deal. They're very posed, the pictures, and this does feel like, this is just a snapshot of what was really happening, and I like the immediacy of that.
Yep.
Okay.
Compact first.
Yep. I can't read the name on this one.
Sorry, Manuel. I'm gonna let me pull it up. I don't know why it's coming up so small, but it's Manuel Ruthrick, I hope, of a diver in a flooded cave or cavern.
And this is a compact category.
Yes.
Yes, I think the compacts, often in compact categories, you see these amazing macro creations from compact cameras, and that's often the area that they really excel in. I think, to be honest, if you have a compact camera with all the tricks, it doesn't impress me particularly that you can do as good a shot as someone with an SLR. It's kind of like, why have a separate category? But I think in wide angle, where pictures like this are really created by hard work by photographers, models, diving in challenging and difficult conditions, this picture, I think, is really impressive just as a photographic achievement. And also the image quality and look of it looks fantastic. It's got a really classy feel and look to it. So it really impresses me as a compact picture.
Yeah, and I like all the, I guess it's a weed or an algae being backlit by the light. Because a lot of times you just have the diver backlit, which works nicely, but having all that other stuff backlit as well adds a whole other element to it. And then being able to see the cave floor also lit up is really, and a little bit on the surface as well. Actually, you get to see there's some context up there as well. I think works really nicely. And like you said, especially those wide angle scenes with compacts, which is where compacts typically can't maybe match SLRs. I think this is a really cool picture. And you'd never know if you like, maybe if you saw it huge, you could tell some quality difference, but you would never know if somebody
The
posted
quality
this
looks
what it
really
would
good
look
though,
like.
doesn't it? Like, given
It does
that
look
these
good,
shots
yeah.
are often higher ISO and that sort of thing, which is why it's harder to do these with the smaller sensors and things. But yeah, really, really impressive. And like you say, it's got kind of an alien world feel to it. The way that all the vegetation or whatever it is along the top just looks just so weird with the backlighting.
Yeah.
Okay, into the
Unrestricted.
unrestricted. So
Yeah,
I'm
so these
guessing this is
have,
just a double exposure done in camera, but might be done in
yeah.
the computer.
I think I read it was in camera, but so unrestricted used to be unrestricted wide angle and unrestricted macro, and there was no limit to what you could do with regards to your processing or your double exposures or whatever it happens to be. I don't particularly care for double exposure images. It's just a personal taste thing. But I do think, as far as they go, this one's well executed. You could almost imagine the eel is being lit by that sunball, and having the shrimp there is a cool little bit of interest as well.
I like the position
And
of the shrimp because it's a particularly small shrimp and it's right across the eye. I mean, I presume it's a small shrimp rather than a huge eel. I don't think the eel's like this big. I think that the position of the shrimp on the eye is fun. I think it's, particularly if you've seen, this subject matter before, having the shrimp in that position is fun. These are a classic snoot subject. Very, they tend to stay still, relatively easy to snoot. But I think the addition of the double exposure for me in this one, it elevates the picture a bit. I've seen this, 100 times with a snoot. So why not show me something different? And here it is as a double exposure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I like it, particularly in that competition sense. And we didn't read out who it's by.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me pull that up real quick. Sorry, I don't know why the vertical ones didn't translate super well.
It's our screen
this is by Carol Gonzalez.
Well done. Okay. And now we're into, I guess this is freshwater. I can see the word water.
So it's cold water. So this is a new category this year for DPG. I can't remember which one was done away with, but now we have a cold water category there, which I think is interesting.
And what's the temperature limit for cold water?
I think it was 60 Fahrenheit, if I recall correctly, in the rules. I'll have to go back and check that. But these freshwater streams are typically pretty cold.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't doubting that. I mean, even the lobster's blue. I mean, it looks colder than it is in
Florida. Especially, even our rivers here would qualify actually for the cold water category. But a beautiful, the blue, I forget, I think, Francisco Vicentin is the photographer, and I think this was shot in Italy. So a lot of those high elevation streams and rivers are going to be quite frigid.
I've never seen a crayfish this color either.
I don't know if it's a population or if it's a species, because I have some friends who have shot the blue ones as well, but I can't remember what the details of it are. But it's a beautiful animal, and it stands out so well. I mean, a lot of those freshwater environments are pretty monotone with greens and browns and things like that. So it stands out so well against the greens and browns of its environment. And I like, of course, being able to have the reflection up top works really nicely also.
Yeah, to me, this opportunity kind of cries out for a vertical. Just because it looks like there's some really interesting tree stuff going on at the top of the frame. And, I just feel like main crayfish, reflection, and then trees is a more interesting image than kind of some brown stream, and this interest in the middle of the frame. But it's still, I do really like the subject, and I like the reflection. It's a very well taken shot. For me, if this came up on the back of my camera, I'd be turning my camera through 90 degrees pretty quickly. But maybe Francesco's got that, and he's saving that somewhere else. So,
entirely possible.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I think the next one's last. Yep. So this was the last one. Tom Schlesinger and his Oceans of Life coral spawning portfolio, which I really like. I think the portfolios this year were all really nice. I think 3 were awarded, maybe 3 were awarded, I think. But Tom's won, and these are beautiful, I think. Especially the bottom central one is my favorite, I think.
Well, I really love coral spawning as a subject matter. I've dedicated a lot of time to shooting it. Not recently, but sort of 20 to 10 years ago, I did a lot of corals. I mean, I have shot it recently, but not with the dedication of before. And it's really great to see more photographers taking on this subject, because it is a challenging thing to shoot. A coral species will spawn for a few minutes in the entire year, and will do so usually in the dead of night. And so it's not easy to make pictures like this. They take a lot of planning and practice, and then to also, they also, you don't get second chances. So you've got to nail your shots at the time, and to do a mix of wide angle and macro and split levels is not the work of 5 minutes. It's probably the work of several years. Yeah. So as a portfolio, I think the achievement is very impressive, and the individual images are very nice too.
Yeah. It's really well done. I think it's a worthy portfolio winner, and I think some of these could stand alone as single images in competitions, especially those two, the bottom left and bottom center. I think especially. I really enjoy both of those. So well done to Tom. I know he's done well in this competition in the past, so it's nice to see him win the portfolio as well. But I think that's all of them. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So thank you guys for watching. We enjoy doing these competition reviews. We get to see a lot of cool pictures doing them. Hopefully you guys get something out of them as well, especially insight from Alex with regards to competitions overall. So please keep watching, and we will see you guys next time on the Underwater Photography Show.